Alright, so last time on Absolute Batman issue number 6, we saw Batman go up against Black Mask and the Party Animals. It took him a lot of pain, a lot of suffering, but he was able to defeat them, but he did not stop the full organization, as it's revealed in the epilogue that all of these people were working for the Joker. And the Joker's new plan is to sick Absolute Bane on Batman, but it looks like before we see that encounter, Batman's gonna run into Absolute Mr. Freeze. So let's get into it. And we start with the prologue where we see Kid Mr. Freeze going on an adventure with his father in Tanzania to explore and study a glacier, so we already see that connection between Victor and the cold. But back in the present day, before we see what happened with Victor and his father, we see Bruce and his friends mourning the death of one of their other friends, Matches Malone. And for those of you who don't know, that's actually an alias Bruce uses in the OG universe to get information on criminals. But here in the Absolute universe, it appears to be a real person that they were close with, and now he's dead. And Bruce reveals to the group that he was the last person to see him alive. And we go back 1 week before Matches died, and we see that this is a bit of a time skip as it's 1 month from what happened with the Party Animals, which is probably why Bruce is not so beat up and cut up and burned up. And we see that Mayor Hill has put Gotham under martial law. Cops are everywhere, there's a 10 o'clock curfew, everyone looking for the Batman and trying to make sure the city is safe. And we also see that there is a secret site where people are building a place called Ark M, clearly meant to be similar to Arkham Asylum. And I'm definitely curious to see what they're going to do with that and how they're going to twist that in the Absolute universe. We also see Bruce and Alfred are still currently working together, as Alfred told him to sit tight. He doesn't want Bruce to do anything crazy, probably doesn't even want him to suit up, as Bruce is very suspicious on what's going on in Ark M. And he knows there's a company overseeing the construction of Ark M called JK, which of course, I'm pretty sure, is the Joker. And with Bruce being an engineer and a construction worker, he's gonna try and get on this crew. He wants to see what they're building in Ark M, why it's so private. And the person here to help him get into this building is his friend Matches Malone, as he's on this bridge to meet him. He's somebody who does ID scams, so he's the perfect person to give him some fake papers and allow him to go work on the inside. And as Bruce is ready to sit and talk, he wants to move around, he wants to make sure they're not being followed, as like I said before, Gotham is under martial law. There are cops everywhere. And as he tells Bruce that he did in fact get those papers ready for him, he did something even better. He went on the inside and worked with that crew for the past week. Something that's incredibly dangerous, as he can't handle himself like Bruce can. And this of course annoys Bruce and gets him a bit worried, as he doesn't want his friend risking himself, especially when he doesn't need to. All he needed to do is get him the paper so that he can do it himself. But as we saw at the beginning when they were mourning his death, he is a bit of a risk taker, so this is just who he is. And he starts to give Bruce some information on Ark M, letting him know how nasty it is, how it's very secretive, and how they're already putting people in there as they're building it. And of course this is a big surprise to Bruce, but he wants to calm Bruce down, telling him not to worry. And of course every Bruce across the multiverse is emotionally stunted, so he doesn't really want to tell his friend that he's worried, he just lets him know it was supposed to be him. But we see something's going on with Matches Malone. He's starting to sweat, and he starts telling Bruce how he misses him and he did this because he owes him, but he can't seem to get the words out. And as he continues to sweat more and more, he looks down, he's starting to shake, and we see something surprising Bruce. As he turns to see Match's face covered in blood, his pores are starting to open up, he's bleeding from every part of his body, then throws up a bunch of blood and just dies right there in front of Bruce. Someone has done something to him, and he dies a very brutal and bloody death. And as Bruce looks on horrified at the mangled remains of his friend, he thinks he hears someone sneaking up on them. And as he raises his cast that he's turned into a weapon because this dude is really a builder, he can build anything, it turns out it's just a civilian. So at this point, all he can really do is grab his friend's phone and run off, as it honestly looks like he just killed him. So Bruce explains this situation to the rest of the friend group, letting them know that he believes Matches was killed with a biological weapon. But now that he has Matches' phone, he's got a few leads, and he's gonna bring the person down that did this. He's gonna avenge their friend. And as he prepares to leave, he can't get off that easy. He has a lot of explaining to do. First of all of his friends know that he's Batman. That needs to be explained. Not to mention they thought he died as the Batman, as the last time they knew, he jumped on the boat to stop the Party Animals and it literally exploded. So it turns out in this month time skip that we got, Bruce hasn't had contact with his friends as he's been healing up. So he's got a lot of explaining to do, and he's not getting off that easy, as they stop him from leaving and force the conversation about the Batman. And while they talk about the Batman, we see what Bruce got up to after this conversation. As he followed up on a few leads, and the little bit he found in Match's phone, it was not good. Screaming, crying, people being tortured, windowless cells. He knows whatever's going on in Ark M, it is not good, and he's gotta find a way in. But one thing he found interesting was a list of different researchers and doctors in Match's phone. And I found this list pretty interesting, as it's a bunch of people important to the OG universe of Gotham. He sees the last name Isley, which we know is Pamela Isley, the Poison Ivy. We also see the last name Strange, which would of course be Hugo Strange. Strange. This dude is a freaking psychopath. We even see the name Freeze, as in Victor Freeze, and in this universe, he is the leader in cryotech, and this is who Bruce is actually looking for. We even see the name Langstrom, and I'm pretty sure that's Man-Bat, so we've got Absolute Poison Ivy, Absolute Hugo Strange, and Absolute Man-Bat, and Absolute Mr. Freeze, all on the horizon. And based on how crazy this universe is, I'm sure they're going to be horrific. But as Bruce is flying through the sky, his plan was to use an upcoming snowstorm to hide himself. But just as the storm started to rage on and he thought he was actually safe, it suddenly just stopped and he's exposed. So now he has to try and get away. And while he's trying to get away, Alfred actually patches in, trying to give him information on what killed Matches Malone, and also checking to see if he's not doing anything too crazy, making sure he's resting that arm. And as we know, he's doing something very crazy and he is not resting that arm. But it turns out what actually killed Matches Malone was not a biological weapon, but a bacterium. And it's a bacterium that seems impossible to track, as Batman is trying to figure out where the hell it came from. But Alfred doesn't really know either, and he says after a few days he can come back and he and Bruce can talk about it. And we actually get a funny moment between the two as Bruce lied about all the action and commotion in the back, saying that it was just the radio. So as Alfred tells him to turn the radio down before he goes deaf and to take care of himself, Bruce then pushes the subject, asking if that's all he needed to say, only for Alfred to let him know he knows he's lying and there is no radio, and all Bruce can do is hang up, as he continues to try and find these leads on what happened to Matches Malone. And before he breaks into the building, we get to see what's going on with the conversation between he and his friends regarding the Batman, as they're all very curious, is the only reason he spent so much time with them was to acquire extra skills as the Batman. And as he tries to brush it to the side, tries to get back to work, they bring up Matches Malone. As Waylon says, there's a reason Matches was the way he was, but we don't get to see what exactly he's talking about. And Bruce doesn't want to have any more of this conversation as he leaves so he can get back to work. And I said it before, I think if he keeps treating this friendship like this, their confusion and disappointment is going to turn into anger and hatred, and I think this is how these people may start to actually hate him and become Batman's rogues gallery. And what makes it more heartbreaking is we've seen the backstory. We've seen how this Batman thinks, what inspires him, what's important to him. We know he deeply cares about his friends, and he does love them, but he's just so troubled, so emotionally stunted, I mean normal Batman stuff, that he is just terrible at actually showing this, and it really looks like he's using them and doesn't give a damn about them. Something I think is really going to get misconstrued later on. But anyway, he finally breaks into the building, finally wants to see what's going on inside Arc M, this big mystery. But because of all the surveillance at the top, he has to leave his Batman suit in the pipes. And I think that is so crazy because it sounds like he's definitely gonna need it. But for now, all he's got is his skills, his brains, and that one gauntlet that he has as his cast. And he decides to enter as a nobody, just some engineer here to check up on the building, as there's a reason this building requires so much power. Earlier in the comic, he wrote in his combat journal that this one building has enough power to power up 10 city blocks. So they're doing all kinds of things in here. And as Bruce is looking at all the intact animals they've got frozen in ice, we see the director of V-Corps come in to talk to him. Bruce lets him know he's here to check on the power, gives him the fake ID that Matches gave him, but he realizes the dude doesn't give a damn about that ID, barely glances at it. He's just happy to have the company, so Bruce tries to play it up, tries to start a conversation with the guy. And as Bruce lets him know how beautiful everything is, he says thank you and tells him if there's anything he can do for him, just ask, even if it's just a midnight tour, as Dr. Freeze and his wife collected all kinds of beautiful specimens. And Bruce innocently asks, does Victor and Nora Freeze still oversee the project? And my god, as the dude says yes and clicks a button, we see a monstrosity I did not expect. We see Victor and Nora Freeze frozen, seemingly drained of life, looking terrified. And now this is one of the twists I be talking about when it comes to the Absolute Universe. As we know, Victor Freeze has his wife frozen because she has some kind of illness and he wants to cure, and he goes crazy and he's the villain, Mr. Freeze. While here, they are both frozen and it doesn't look pleasant or consensual or peaceful, although the person that we've been talking to this entire time, Victor Jr., their son, states it's something they wanted, and we do see them holding hands, so the whole situation just looks insane. But hell, even Victor states it does seem a bit extreme, but of course, like he says, they had a shared love for the ice, and this is what they wanted, and they have faith in the mission. And as Bruce asks, somehow still composed, what exactly is the mission? There are no documents on what exactly you guys do here at V-Corps. And I think this explanation covers so much, like, let's really go over this. So he states, my parents always believed the ice held wonders, that it existed to preserve good things until the world was ready for them, ice was the Earth's grace, blue and pure. They funded their research with V-Corps, where the dying could preserve themselves in ice until cures for their deaths existed, which is exactly how it happened in the OG universe, as Nora had an illness that Freeze just couldn't figure out, so he froze her until he could get it cured. But it goes even further than that, as it turns out this is why his parents are frozen, as they also have an illness that can't be cured yet, and they want to be preserved until they can be woken up, revived, and fixed. This is why the building requires so much power. This is what V-Corps does. There are tons and tons of people that have illnesses or different things that can't be fixed right now, and the ice is keeping them from dying, holding them and preserving them until the world is ready to fix them, until things have changed and they're able to be revived. As Bruce then asks him who has actually been revived, and it turns out Victor Jr. has been revived. This process actually has worked. As he tells him, when I was a boy, I was diagnosed with a rare terminal disorder. Distraught, my parents were convinced the condition would be cured one day, but not in time to save me, so the ice would save me instead. So not only does Victor Jr. have a deep connection with the cold, with the ice, but so does his parents. That's what this entire organization is about. They've played this so well. This truly is Mr. Freeze. And we're getting more glimpses of the conversation before Bruce walked away, as we see Waylon telling him, "You walk away now and mark my words, Bruce, you will die." And this is when we get a crazy reveal here. So Bruce tells him, "Guess it did save you." And he stops really listening to what Victor is saying, although he should have listened, but he's trying to figure out what exactly killed his friend. What did he do to Matches Malone? So he's looking throughout the desk and he sees something that says ancient microorganisms, and he sees that, okay, this must have been the bacterium that killed him, and it's not where the bacterium came from, but when, as it does say ancient, so it must be something that was preserved in the ice. But like I said, he's not listening to Victor, as Victor states, yes, he did get saved, but still they told him the world would be better, that it wouldn't hurt once he came out of the ice. But the ice, oh, it's not what they thought, not at all, and we see him turning into something. Veins blue, nails blue, skin going completely pale, and Bruce is still not paying attention, looking for more evidence, having his back completely turned, oblivious to what's going on behind him. And as his eyes turn red, he states, "I felt everything, every moment, and the pain, my God. Ice grinds and twists." And as we see a little more of the conversation between Bruce and Waylon, he says, "Hell, Bruce, look at you, you're already dead." And Bruce starts to figure out this guy, Victor Jr., he's the one that used this ancient bacterium to somehow put inside Matches Malone and kill him. But it's too late. As Victor Jr. states, "The ice births monsters, Mr. Pennyworth." And we got it in quotations, so he's well aware that either Bruce is Batman or that Bruce is just lying in general. He knows his name is not Mr. Pennyworth. But that's not the craziest reveal, as we get the full image of what Victor Jr. has become. As he states, "Just like me." And he's this giant, elongated, black and blue ice creature, this just disgusting version of the OG Mr. Freeze. And as he grabs Bruce, he says, "Now to the land of ice we go," as the issue ends. So this was actually insane. Not too much action in this comic, but we got a lot of information, and now we have our introduction to Absolute Mr. Freeze. And just like everything else in the Absolute universe, it is completely insane. But we're gonna try and keep this up. We're gonna get to issues 8 and 9, trying to keep up, because I know issue 10 comes out pretty soon, and we're pretty close to being fully caught up on Absolute Batman, so I can get back into Absolute Wonder Woman and Superman as well, and everything else in the amazing Absolute universe. But I hope you guys have enjoyed my little breakdowns of these comics, and I will catch you all on the next one.